3, 2, 1.
Racing World is presented by Race Control Magazine. Hi, welcome into the Racing World podcast. I'm Darcy Waldegrave along with David Turner, that guy over there, Bob McMurray, that guy over here. He's our Formula One dude. He's our IndyCar dude. I'm just a dude, and I'd like to thank you very much for joining us across all of our streams, Radio Public, Anchor FM and Spotify, and of course on YouTube. If you're watching our pretty faces now, you need to like and subscribe and share away so we can carry on justifying what we do out here in the middle of Waitoki every Tuesday as it stands out. Now, if you're wondering why I'm wearing this,
yes,
and it's very important you understand this. I have a history of road rage, and we know that it's really unpalatable. Really,
So we're going right off topic straight away, are we?
Well, no, it's all about driving, and I'm in road rage, and my beautiful new lady purchased me this hat, and she made me wear it when I drive. She goes, that way, if you choose to yell at somebody, look in the rear vision mirror, realize how incredibly stupid you look, and stop. And you know what? It worked up until last week when I raged at somebody, and then I realised how scary I looked with this hat on. So I'm not sure if it worked. I'll take that off now.
We could talk more about road rage and motorsport.
Looking a lot better.
Some go-karting events.
Where are we?
I've got one for you just before we get into it. And the like and subscribe. First of all, thank you to everybody who has subscribed. We really appreciate it. We're seeing that come up. Got one for you two boys. I was at the South Island Endurance event in the weekend in Christchurch. I bumped into somebody there who said to me, "Hey, you're that guy from that Racing World show." And I went, who, me?
Look at this.
Did they think you were him?
No. They said, you're the guy that kind of does the IndyCar stuff with those other old guys. So old guys, there you go. So anyway, to our new friends in Christchurch, we thank you immensely for following us, subscribing and liking us.
People in Christchurch.
And to anyone else, well, the boys are here anyway. Right, now you can carry on.
I'm not a 51 for another 2 weeks. Stop with the old thing already. Stop it, Bob. You are seasoned.
It ain't old, this experience. When you two have got as much experience as me in doing what we do and talking about what we talk about, then come tell me.
Okay, fine.
Because you haven't.
Well, then let's tell us about
Formula
One.
Let's go. It's on to you now. I'm going to do nothing but drink coffee. Formula One world, not great news.
No, it's interesting news.
Okay, there you go.
I can imagine the phone call from Christian Horner going, Cyril, mate, we told you to bugger off a little while ago because we didn't like your engines. Well, Honda have now left us. Oh, I don't think this is very good for you, the things you said about me. And he's going to go on for a while, isn't he? So what are Honda going to do? They're going to go to IndyCar, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But they're pulling out of Formula One. For absolute bullshit reasons. I'm sorry.
This is not a lot of grey area here, for sure.
The reason they're pulling out of Formula One is because they haven't been successful. It's as simple as that. They spend all that money and they haven't been successful and they can't really win. And that's why they're pulling out. And they've done it multiple times before. If that's the way they feel about motorsport. And the reasons they're given they want us to be carbon neutral. Well, sorry, it's ridiculous. I'm sorry, it really is. So what's going to happen now? Obviously, Red Bull, with their two teams, Red Bull and AlphaTauri, have got to find a new engine
quickly.
Somehow. So they're either going to go to they've got next year. So they've either got to go to Renault or they've got to ask Mercedes. They've been refused from Mercedes. They've got to go to Ferrari. They've been refused to Ferrari. Or what? I don't know. Maybe they should buy the Honda operation, which is only across the road from Red Bull anyway, and do what Ross Brawn did. He did it quite successfully. He bought them for £1, didn't he? All the Honda operation, which turned into Brawn GP, which turned into Mercedes. So Honda had it all there. They had it all going. And in 1 or 2 years' time, they probably would, with arguably the best driver or the fastest driver on the track without Lewis Hamilton being there in Max Verstappen, they could have made a success. But no, they've decided not to.
How flagged was
continue.
it? How flagged was it? How much of a surprise was this when it came out?
I think despite what Dr. Helmut Marko says this morning, that he knew all along this was going to happen, Christian Horner didn't, and I think the rest of the racing world, apart from Honda, did not know either. So I think it's a pretty quick decision. And incidentally, they can go to Renault and ask for an engine because under Appendix 6 of 2022 sporting regulations compels a manufacturer supplying the fewest teams to also supply a team which has no alternative. So they can go back to Renault and say, we want to
have to.
Because don't forget, Renault are losing McLaren next year, and because McLaren are going to Mercedes. So in the end, that's probably what's going to happen, I would think. And
can we just go back to your assertion that going carbon neutral is bullshit? I think that I paraphrased that. Okay.
So we're not voting for the Green Party then, no, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so how does that marry in with them sticking around with IndyCar?
Precisely. And why are the IndyCar?
And they're making all at the same time, the big announcement. We're staying here.
We'll talk about that in the next part.
Yeah, okay, fine.
Because they're winning in IndyCar.
Yeah.
That's all. Oh, look, Cecil.
But interesting thing
Stock
too,
engine.
like you're saying, obviously the engine is still there in theory at this stage for next season. But in terms of development of that engine, that's got to be frozen pretty much as at now,
immediately.
isn't it? So
and support
you're on the
ongoing.
back foot to Mercedes right from the word go, aren't you?
Yeah, essentially the engines are frozen anyway, apart from reliability things. So essentially that's going to be the same regulation. So it's going to be the same as, this year, next year, whatever. I just think the whole thing is a crock of crap that they're talking about.
They wouldn't want a Ferrari engine, just by the way. Sorry. I'm a fan. It's just been so hard.
Yeah. Anyway, we've got Nürburgring coming up. Yeah. It's Grand Prix, Eiffel Grand Prix, being the Eiffel Mountains.
This has been such a pick and mix, such a licorice all sort of names for Formula One this year. The Grand Prix, different flavours that have come out. It's like,
but what about there's two following, don't forget. We've got Portimao and then we've got Turkey. I don't know whether
Wait till we get to the Grand Prix of Palmerston North or something like that.
Trying to look up Portimao, looking at this racetrack, I am pretty fizzed and pumped for watching this go. This could be quite astonishing.
When Portimao comes along, it's going to be good. But the fact is they're going to be at Nürburgring in October.
Getting cold.
In October, it's bad enough in the bloody summer, believe me, being in Nürburgring. But in the winter, I looked up the weather today. It's 8 degrees and raining. And they go all through the week till Sunday, 8 or 10 degrees and rain or drizzle or something. But even if it's drizzle up there.
Sounds like Ecclestone's dream from back in the day. Bring rain. It makes for more exciting.
This is the thing that we're seeing.
Winter.
Yeah.
This is the thing that we're seeing as a result of COVID, though. And it doesn't matter whether it's, say, Supercar, IndyCar, in this instance, Formula One, the seasons are going longer in places that they wouldn't normally be at.
Yeah, well.
And with that comes climate change. But you know what I mean. Temperature change. IndyCar was a great example of that, which we can talk about later. But, it's the variable in the season. But saying that you and me have once had, it's the same for everyone.
It's the same for everyone, yeah. And I mean, the Formula One season goes on until December, like 2 weeks or a week and a bit before Christmas.
I'm not unhappy about watching Max Verstappen in the wet, quite frankly. So I'm cool with that. That's fine.
I just got to feel sorry for these guys that are going to be at Nürburgring, though, because I've been up there in the summer with a puffer duvet jacket on. It can be horrible. But anyway, that's what we've got. The big news, as I say again, is Honda pulling out for whatever reasons they decide they want to give because it's
insert
rubbish.
Excuse here with an asterisk.
We're
leaving. Do we even have to tell you why?
But it's classic Formula One too. Classic
not.
Formula One, you got to have almost a news headline every week, don't you? So we got one.
Yeah, but you don't need a manufacturer pulling out every week, do you? I mean, next year also we're going to have the Aston Martin engine, of course, but that's a Mercedes with a different badge. So, I don't know where they're going to go. But I wish Honda, they've been in and out of Formula One. They treat it as is their right. It's their money. They spend $1 billion on this engine and they still haven't got anywhere. So let's not worry about it. We can't win. Let's concentrate on the Indy series.
Question from the bleachers, from the cheap seats. When was the last considerable American engine manufacturer involved in Formula One?
The last American manufactured engine, the American paid for engine was the Cosworth, because Ford America actually paid through Ford England for the Cosworth to be developed. The most successful engine ever, you got to say. Before that, Dan Gurney had the Eagle Westlakes.
There you go.
Before that, oh God.
Feel free to comment, please, if you're watching on YouTube, and let us know. This kind of history is, I haven't been around as long as Bob, as he quite rightly pointed out before. I thought I'd just ask a question just to see. Yeah. It was a steam-powered engine.
Sorry.
No,
they never had one of those. That was a German one called Mercedes in those days. So anyway, Formula One, we'll talk about it after the race next week. But that's probably the biggest bit of news. And on the brighter note, which is good and bad news, the youngsters are getting a drive. The Ferrari youngsters are getting a drive in some of them. This is the bad news and the good news. Mick Schumacher.
It's quite a name coming back to Formula One, isn't it? How you carry that on your shoulders that you've referenced before. You've got to be impressed the way he's run like that.
Callum Ilott and Schwartzman, both of whom are TRS graduates, and Mick Schumacher are getting drives on various Ferrari cars.
But sadly, no Marcus Armstrong in that mix.
It is a bit sad for Marcus because obviously he's got to, I don't know what's going to happen there. Just as a little side from that, there's Formula 3 testing going on as well for next year. I noticed that Liam Lawson is not part of that testing. Now, that's good news if he's doing something else or he's committed to something else, maybe a bigger Formula, maybe Formula 2, maybe a different team, I don't know what, or maybe just Formula 3. Or it's bad news in that he's not doing Formula 3 and there is nothing going on. We'll have to wait and see. But certainly, this time of year, everything's changing around, especially with younger drivers. Be interesting to see how these three younger drivers go in Ferrari engine cars, be it a Ferrari or an Alfa or whatever they're driving, or a Haas. Might be doing that. We'll see.
With time we pass the baton over from Formula One to IndyCar here on the Racing World podcast. If you're listening on Spotify, thanks very much for your time. Also, Anchor FM and Radio Public. Remember to share and like and subscribe as well. Same goes with you team watching us here on YouTube. This is Racing World.
Perspective Group is a leading media production company based in Auckland, New Zealand. Established in 2009 by former TVNZ producer David Turner, Perspective Group offers you a vast arrangement of media options to fit any size or budget. It covers truly global services supported by some of New Zealand's leading media talents. For more information, contact Perspective Group Limited at perspectivegroupltd@gmail.com and check out the website perspectivegroupltd.com, where you'll find even more information on creating your media solutions.
You have a dream. You have all the drive in the world. You have talent to burn. Now all you need is a chance. Toyota are committed to developing and nurturing New Zealand's next generation of world-class racing drivers, because if you can dream it, we can do it.
Welcome back into the Racing World podcast. Thanks very much for joining us. Remember, like, subscribe and share across all platforms if you're watching or listening. Right, we move away from Formula One, where Honda have moved away from, but Honda have stuck with IndyCar because there's no carbon footprint issue in America, is there?
No.
It doesn't exist.
No,
I listen to the press. I know.
Not a Midwest.
Nothing to see here. No idea. Yeah. So, good news for that series.
Yeah, well, stability with the two engine manufacturers both staying, which I would have been surprised if they'd gone, but as soon as the Honda thing came out, you automatically thought, shit, wonder if they're going to stay in Formula One or not, in IndyCar or not. So there was that element of doubt, which, strange enough, the press conferences all coincided. So the hybrid deal for IndyCar is happening, but it's been deferred to 2023. And they're kind of saying that some of that was because of COVID this year and all the other issues that everyone's been through. Let's defer it a little bit. And I don't really have a problem with that.
Fair enough.
So what's the big change that we need to know about?
Well, the hybrid deal though with IndyCar is that they don't want to lose what they call the heritage of the sport. So therefore, the cars are still going to be noisy,
yes,
and all of those sorts of things. So
hybrid.
that's great. But there's a hybrid component. So we don't know. But yeah, you've got two manufacturers that are committed to that series that create great rivalry. If you look at our two championship contenders, it's one each. Great things. IndyCar still feel that there is a third engine manufacturer there. Jay Fry has said that. We've just got to get it over the line. And there's been lots of parties mentioned over the last few years. And they're chasing that. And I think a third manufacturer would be great. Engine manufacturer, that is, because obviously it's the same chassis.
Are they going to make these new engines 900 horsepower?
Wow. It's the quest for speed at
must be more horsepower you get, the more carbon neutral it is. Is that
that's
probably
what it
it?
is? Yep, that makes perfect sense.
But in terms of the rest of the weekend, well, yeah, she was different, wasn't it? You know, Dixie didn't have an overly fantastic weekend. I am going to criticise some local media again because they can criticise us if they want to.
States anyway at the moment, so you don't mind.
No, this is local media here in New Zealand saying that Scott Dixon lost the plot in qualifying, didn't perform well in qualifying, and
well,
the team didn't
qualifying
have
one
to deal.
wasn't his fault.
Exactly.
That's
where I'm heading with
Ferrucci.
this.
He was chaos. Like,
It was Sato.
Sorry.
So Sato went off, caused the red flag. A lot of drivers were ready to go out and put their lap in, and the session timed out. It was a guaranteed fixed amount of time. They'd already done it, so it wasn't a Dixon thing. And if you're going to say that about Scott, then you also have to say the same about Simon Pagenaud, who ended up qualifying last, right? But that's not as a result of his car. So had my little rant there. But overall, yeah, not a good weekend for Scott when you are faced with starting midfield like that. You surround yourself with way more variables than what you do when you start up the front.
He did recover well, didn't he?
Yeah, for sure.
9th in the first race, 8th in the second. He kept things alive.
There were some pretty hairy moments keeping it alive, though. There was some
there's a bit of wheel banging going on.
A lot of that, what do they call it, hip and shoulder action happening right throughout the race. Like, as far as the actual spectacle, though.
But big difference too, right? They were at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We'd been there already in May, June this year. I have to do it in Fahrenheit because I can't do it in Celsius because the brain doesn't work that quick. But it was 94 degrees ambient air temperature on race day when they were there for the IndyCar Grand Prix back in the early part of this year. This past weekend, it was 55, 56 degrees Fahrenheit. So the ambient temperature was way colder. Track temperature was way colder. Yes, the car's engines perform better in the cooler air, but equally the cars don't grip as well in the cooler air. So a lot of variables. And as we'd said, a setup that worked in May, June didn't work in October. So,
but in fairness, though, Scott made more mistakes than I've seen him make in a long time in one weekend. You know,
the brake lock-up going at the end of the main straight and stuff during the race, they were driver errors.
Well, they were. And when you flat spot that early, you struggle.
Yeah.
And he did struggle. This is pressure. I suppose you wonder about how long before it gets released, because it's been a series of incidents, some that he's caused, some that he hasn't been party to, but when does it pick up? I suppose he's only got one opportunity to pick it up.
Yeah, it's St. Pete. And it hasn't always been a great track. From the thing that concerns me at St. Pete, again, if you qualify poorly there, you're going to get caught in the traffic going through off the end of the airport runway through those first two turns. It's very, very narrow. So qualifying, I think there's a really big emphasis on qualifying at St. Pete.
Fact corner. I'm muscling into your IndyCar thing.
Good. Fine.
Joseph Newgarden won last year, 2019. Penske has won 9 times there in all over the time. Dixon has no wins there, but he's been multiply second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. So he's been around there. Ganassi has only one win there, and that was Franchitti in 2011. So they go in this weekend. Dixon leads Newgarden by 32 points. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody out there. Okay. So if Dixon is 9th, he gets 22 points or above, he wins the championship. If Newgarden wins the race, he gets a possible 54 points, right? Mm-hmm. That's one for pole, one for the laps, 2 for lap led, 1 for lap led, and 2 for the leading the most laps. If Newgarden wins the race, then they're both even on wins, if Scott is 9th. Then they go to seconds. Scott Dixon has 2 seconds. Joseph Newgarden has 1 second. Scott Dixon wins the championship. So if he
takes all the biscuits at the top, number 1, fastest lap lead, scores us 54 points, 9th position is going to be enough to win the championship. Yep. So we've talked about this before. What actually needs to happen in order to win, and how much he's thinking, finish the race, win the race, keep in touch with Newgarden. What's the thought process here?
I don't think he can have any other thought than trying to win the race when you go into it. But when you're suddenly 6th, then you've got to think, okay, and Newgarden's first say, all I've got to do is get close to him, stay close to him.
Bring it home.
Your mindset must change during the race, but you've got to go into the weekend thinking you're going to win.
In a poll conducted by Auto Week this morning that we've had a vote on as well. This is my turn for the facts. 58% of the people that were surveyed in the poll versus 42%, the 58 feel that Dixon can still win the championship. So God bless Auto Week, I say.
After all, he is in the best position. I mean, he's leading. You know, he's leading by 32 points.
The other variable that can come into it, but I don't think it will, but it can never be ruled out, is the fact that you've got Simon Pagenaud and Will Power to support Newgarden. And I think that they do a better support role than maybe the Ericsson and Rosenquist for Dixon. And I've said that before with various other drivers that Dixon's had over the years. when we've got into this scenario. But it is what it is at the end of the day, and it's a race. And the other great thing about it is that yet again, for now, I believe about the 18th year in a row, the IndyCar title goes to the final race. Yep. That's what it's about.
Plus, you've got Andretti, a whole bunch of Andretti guys in there who are quite quick, who may not be involved in the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th positions, but they may well be involved in 1, 2, 3, 4. Colton Herta, for instance.
Yep.
Herta's driven incredibly well. Rossi has come up in the last little while as well. So, you can't discount the fact that there's going to be a whole bunch of Andretti drivers messing about with the other two big teams, which is as it should be.
While we've just criticised them, we'd have to say, well, they're all Honda-powered drivers, so bless them, they can look after the other Honda-powered drivers, because the engine manufacturers thing is still up for grabs as well. So you've got a Chevy-Honda battle. So there's a lot to play for. It's a couple of weeks away yet. Temperatures in Florida won't, in theory, be so bad, but St. Pete, it's pretty exposed. It's coastal as well, so it's good.
And there was a fair bit going on as well with the McLaren drivers. They did pretty well, and I'm saying that because Elio was in there. Elio was going around. He looked, when they interviewed him before the race, he had the beanie on, he had everything done up here. I mean, he lives in Florida, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So suddenly coming up to Indy where it's God knows what, it was about minus 40, it's looked. It must have been difficult for him, but it was interesting to see him back in a road course in a different car.
Yeah, he's just covered the suave hairdo. That's very Elio trademark. Yeah. But, great to see him there, and great to see him with another team, because I think in terms of the debrief sessions and stuff, the amount of knowledge that he would bring to Oliver Askew and Pato O'Ward is invaluable. So, really good.
And the decision by Askew not to be
that's a smart call. Well, IndyCar mandated that anyway.
Well, and so they should have done.
Yeah.
I think it made perfect
But it's
sense.
interesting also for the IndyCar seeing the gentle rise of all these other drivers. Pato O'Ward.
Glad you said that, because it's a real transitional period at the moment.
Look at Renus VK.
Renus VK's having the time of his life, isn't he?
Right.
And you look at that, and that augurs well for the future. I mean, of course, we've got Scott McLaughlin going over there. He'll be at St. Petersburg as well. But something got me about the weekend just gone. I don't know. I don't think there's quite the propensity to pass at St. Petersburg because of the nature of the track. But
no.
IMS, wow. How many passing manoeuvres were in that race?
There were a lot.
How exciting was that to watch? Yeah. And you looked at, I love Formula One. We all love Formula One. But you looked at that and go, wow, imagine if you have a situation like that where it was actually genuinely drivers having a crack and they weren't dominated by a particular manufacturer. Yeah. It was just so good to watch. It was exciting. And that's what we're after. You didn't know what was going to happen next and who was where, and it kept you on tenterhooks right the way through. Really, really good to watch.
Oh, it keeps everyone honest too, doesn't it? That's what it's about at the end of the day. It's about racing and outperforming your competitor, and you got to do it. And that is maybe in some ways the difference of a semi-spec series in IndyCar versus a technology-driven series in Formula One.
They're very different series.
But,
you can't directly
equally,
compare.
IndyCar is diverse enough that it races on these multitude of tracks. So you can go from the oval at Indy to the road course at Indy to St. Pete in a couple of weeks' time,
Actually, having said that, they announced IndyCar announced their schedule for next year.
Yeah.
And there's a drift away from ovals because they're concentrating on road and city courses or whatever they want to do. So the ovals are getting less and less and less in prominence. But there's still the Indy 500.
And it's an oval.
Right. So if they're gradually dropping these ovals and there's new kids coming in from all over the place and they're not used to ovals, not experienced enough on ovals, then you stick them at the Indy 500, which is reputedly one of the hardest ovals to conquer. It's a bit dodgy, isn't it? You can't,
I think
because
so.
IndyCar is never going to do away with the Indy 500, especially now Roger Penske's owns both of them, in effect.
It's the heritage of the sport.
So what?
We spoke of heritage before, and it's important that ovals is kept within it, because that's one thing. When you say IndyCar racing, to most people who aren't big on motorsport, what do they think?
They
think ovals. That's what they think of.
I don't understand this drift away from ovals a little bit.
Well, just depart and drift and then get washed out to sea. As long as they keep it there, they need to have a handful, because the drivers need the experience on something.
Imagine coming from Europe and your first oval is the Indy 500.
And it's not for a lack of facilities either. There's some very good facilities in the States right now that aren't used. So, that'll be interesting. There's a lot of things, that championship's well and truly alive. A couple of weeks' time, we'll know. And then, come Christmas, we'll know about Formula One. Big thing that I went to in the weekend, South Island Endurance Championship, second round at
We met some blind guy.
No. I met a fan of the show, okay? So let's not criticise our fans of our show. We need them all. Great event. I thought the 1 hour race was phenomenal. Great car count, over 40 cars out there. Wow. Really, really good. The 3 hour race was kind of so-so, just a few car failures. But in the end, the heart of racing, Aston Martin took the victory. I'm really impressed by Darren Kelly and just his ability to drive, considering he's a drifter. He did the first stint in the car and his lap times were, equal to anyone out there. So it's very impressive performance. What equally impressed me was there was a great crowd at Ruapuna. So it was really good to see people out enjoying sport. And it doesn't matter whether it's rugby or in this case motorsport. It's nice to see people back out. So 1 round to go in Levels Raceway in Timaru in 2 weeks' time. So it'd be good to see that. And then back up to Pukekohe for the final of the North Island one.
When's the combo?
At Highlands later that month. And it's the New Zealand title meeting. So, it's just a good part of our motorsport season. And, the range of cars there, Greg Murphy was there in the Carter's, Mercedes, and you had 3 Audi R8s there and Aston Martins and, all sorts of things. So it's great. It really is. So I think New Zealand motorsport's looking good. Jack's Ridge is not far away, as you well know. So there's a lot going on.
There's an E-Series now with Jack's Ridge as well. I saw it's been launched that Hayden Padden's running, that the general public can also involved in those.
You know all about Jack's Ridge. You can be in it.
What should I enter?
Well, it's an E-Series. You haven't got to get a car.
No, I don't have to pay for a car. When I crash it, it won't cost anything. I can just get up and walk away.
That'll be fun for the public to have a go.
Well, I think to get involved.
I ain't going to do it.
No, you're not going to do it. But I think that's something that came through when PlayStation first turned up with Colin McRae Rally and with all the Formula One, for an average Joe like myself to be able to get in a car and race those tracks, understand those tracks. It added a whole new level of appreciation, because suddenly when you're watching, it's like, I know this corner. I know the trouble you get into in this corner. I know that corner. I know that. So you feel much more attached to it. So something like Jack's Ridge, which is just around the corner, and we're going to climb in there and prep up our angle box and have a crack and have a go and feel involved and understand what's actually going on. So I'm not a big fan, as people probably know if they listen to my radio show, of eSport. It's not me, but there's something about
makes two of us.
Simulating Formula race car simulation, though, to me is the best that can do for that, because they use these simulators, the drivers themselves. And to me, it's actually something that I think feels a lot more embedded and it feels closer to reality. It's something like that for some
Actually, that's where I realised I was never going to be an e-racer down at the Elite Academy. When I was down there, you get the kids in the heat chamber racing their Porsches with the full gear on. And I tried that in there. And I lasted 2 or 3 laps, and I thought, I'm never going to be
an e-racer.
My only advice to you, considering that you're contemplating your racing debut here, is don't wear that little pink number that you had on before, because that's not a good look.
I can actually reverse my road rage hat to rainbow if I'm feeling better.
Well, don't wear that either.
Get that off.
Well, that's almost us for a week. It's gone fast this week.
Well, just a couple of things. There's always a couple of things.
Oh, there'll be a NASCAR and some dirt.
No, wait a minute. Yeah, okay. Super GT Fuji, Nick Cassidy and Ryo Hirakawa were 4th, and they now sit 2nd in the points table, 1 point behind Oshima and Tsuboi with 3 rounds remaining. So Nick is still banging away over there like crazy. Good for him too. Yep. We'll look forward to seeing him in Formula E. And I will watch it to see him and Mitch Evans in Formula E. NASCAR, Talladega. Now, a lot of people went to Talladega to see a race.
Ricky Bobby.
But all they saw was crash after huge Talladega accidents.
They went to Talladega to see Talladega. They don't.
No,
restricted plate race. That's what happens.
Yeah. So anyway, this is all in the standings thing at the moment. The 7 drivers who are in the for the next round are sorted at the moment, but the ones who are trying to get in include Kyle Bosch. He's the German brother of Kyle Busch, Austin Dillon, Clint Bayer, and Eric Almirola, who nearly won that race and got taken out of it. So NASCAR is getting a little bit more exciting than just going round and round and round and round. World Superbikes at Manicure, Jonathan Ray won the first race. Scott Redding won the second race. The championship now, Jonathan Ray leads Scott Redding, leads Chaz Davis, and Michael van der Mark. And you were going to mention something that we were talking about earlier on, that they're turning the Bristol Motor Speedway. Bristol NASCAR Motor Speedway. What are they doing?
Next year they're going to put dirt down there, and they're going to go back to the good old way with NASCAR and have a dirt race.
Yeah.
So,
This is a concrete oval.
we debated this before. So it's supposed to also be a cost reduction as well as entertainment thing. Well, we all know that anyone will want to win, so they'll create a dirt car. So there's the first expense item. Adding the dirt into Bristol, another expense item. Getting rid of the dirt, another expense item. But the bottom line fact is next year, Bristol will host its normal 2 races, but one of them's going to be on dirt.
But it's not as if they're digging the place up and making it dirt. They're putting dirt on top of the tarmac or the concrete.
Yeah.
So how long is it before 40 NASCARs going around Bristol Motor Speedway, which is not that big, and it's in a bowl like this? How soon is it before they dig all that up and all the dust is all over the place? I mean, it's going to – I just can't believe.
Well,
anyway,
Mr. McMurray, the thing I can say to you is that if this podcast show is still going by the time we get to Bristol next year, we can await for your debrief on that situation.
I tell you what, I'd buy a ticket to go and see it and get covered in mud. Anyway, this weekend coming up, we're back on track with the Formula One Nürburgring Eiffel Grand Prix, Eiffel Grand Prix, whatever they're going to call the place, and a whole bunch more going on.
Plenty of it.
Of which you've seen, hopefully, down the bottom of the screen here.
If I remember to put them on there.
He is David Turner. That is Bob McMurray. I'm Darcy Watergrave. Thanks very much for listening to Racing World Podcast, or for indeed watching the Racing World Podcast. Sorry about the hat. Remember, like, share, subscribe. That'll give us justification to carry on with this nonsense on a weekly basis. You have a good weekend.
Race Control Magazine is your IndyCar fan mag and so much more. Publishing monthly online on issuu.com, you'll find Race Control Magazine there for you to download and enjoy everything IndyCar and so much more. Behind-the-scenes features, race reports and the entire Road to Indy series are just part of what you'll find, along with stunning images captured from the series' leading photographers. Grab your copy today at issw.com to complete your motorsport read.
You have a dream. You have all the drive in the world. You have talent to burn. Now all you need is a chance. Toyota are committed to developing and nurturing New Zealand's next generation of world-class racing drivers, because if you can dream it, we can do it.
Racing World is presented by Race Control Magazine.